respect of the revenue collected, received, and recovered by the receiver during that financial year. Section 165.2 says the account under Section 1 shall include a statement of receipts and disbursements in a form prescribed by the Accounting Standards Board from time to time, which is what you have been referring to in terms of the Public Accounting Standards Board, and a statement of arrears of revenue. 3, not later than 3 months, this is the part I was looking for, not later than 3 months after the end of the financial year, the receiver of revenue for the county government shall submit the accounts to the Auditor General and deliver a copy to the National Treasury, which is where we are focusing on, the Controller of Budget, County Treasury, and the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Not later than 2 months after the end of each financial year, a receiver of revenue for the county government shall submit to a county assembly a full report with respect to all waivers and variations of taxes, fees, or even charges granted by the receiver during that year. But I won't read all of it, but I want to just read the relevant part. Actually, these people are supposed to be able to give the Auditor General reports 3 months after the financial year. So I think we wanted to amend what already exists, and I think that is just a misnomer that the Auditor General must be able to point out and take note. I don't know whether it's the same language or you can help me see the understanding of that particular provision of law.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, before the auditor responds to that, who is the receiver?
That's what I wanted to know.
Is it as per Section 157 of the PFM Act, receiver and collectors of county government revenue? So there is a receiver who is designated by the CCM Finance. Is that receiver the same as a collector? And Section 164 that my colleague, is it 164? 165 that my colleague has read. Auditor, if I'm to take it word for word, it means that apart from the county treasurer, who is the head of the treasury, it means that you will be receiving then document directly from the receiver of the revenue, who has been designated by the county treasury. So when you are responding to that query, look at 157 and 165. Those two.
Okay, maybe.
Thank you.
Very briefly on your point, Auditor General, if you could listen to me, you have set out 4 areas where you have said, which you've identified as relevant topics for audit. Now, one of the areas you've set out, Auditor, is the area of management of solid waste in cities. I presume or I know that all cities or all counties have companies that run water and sewage. Maybe you tell us, I'm sure there are other entities that have been contracted or that exist either as companies or as entities that manage some of these services, sewage services, and maybe that had escaped the audit net before. So that's an important point. Now, I think on CHPs is quite straight. The shared responsibility. Though health is devolved under Schedule 4, there's a shared obligation on the part of CHPs under the framework that we have, the Social Health Act. Now, let me just ask another question on riparian land. Maybe you want to tell us whether there are also other entities that some counties have designated to deal with certain services and that collect revenue on behalf of counties and that have also escaped the audit net for a while. I do not know, and I'm just asking, because there are areas you've singled out. Are there any other areas, this is my question, where counties have used companies to render services and or collect revenue, and that in the course of your audit cycle you have discovered that this committee should take concerns about, because there are those outlier areas that counties cleverly are able to use as vehicles that are used to collect revenue and that would often escape your audit judgment. Thank you.
Yeah, the auditor, you have so many matters now. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I actually did not want Senator Olekinah to ask that question because I knew we'll get into a debate of definitions. But indeed, there is a difference between the collectors as procured by the counties as service providers and the receivers as designated as public officials who prepare receiver of revenue statements. And I do issue to the Senate the receiver of revenue statements for each receiver. The challenge has been, have the collectors been remitting the correct revenue to the receivers in the first place? So we want to extend that audit and see how can we follow up beyond that. So there is that difference. This one purely speaks to the designated receivers within an entity. The same way for national government, KRA is a designated receiver of revenue, and then we have other entities that receive like immigration and other ministries that have the other revenue streams, and we prepare different certificates for these revenue streams. The issues that I raised on the special audits or the performance audits, these are topical issues that we pick within the office. I normally have a long list that at the beginning of every financial year, the team from specialized audits give to me for approval based on scanning the environment. What are the topical issues that are being discussed by the citizens? What are the issues being discussed in Parliament and by other stakeholders? What are the issues being raised by the media? And we pick topics. So these are topics that we have picked for this year. Remember, a performance audit is a study. It's almost like a research, and it takes a bit of a while. You will not get a performance audit done in under 9 months or 8 months at most, because we go beyond the financial issues and we look at effectiveness, we look at efficiency, we look at economy and provision of services, we look at issues to do with equity, and we look at sustainability. So these are the issues that we have selected. And it is easier to start with cities so that I have a small team that will look at environmental issues concerning management of waste, and then now later we can cascade that based on the learning curve to the other entities. But that does not mean that we do not raise sometimes paragraphs on these matters in the financial statements, but it's going beyond and looking at it holistically and asking ourselves, is it providing the services as required a certain area, including the medical? I think that was it. Yes, Honorable Chair.
Okay. Maybe just before, and I've just noted this also with our Secretariat. I'm wondering, Madam Auditor General, which PFI mark do you use?